All right, Sam McKewon is with us now. He joins via the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Hi, Sam. What's up?
Not much. Interesting comments indeed today. We thought Troy Dannon was going to talk, but Troy was in there, but he did not.
Really?
He kind of talked to us. Yeah, he talked to some reporters off to the side. So I think you're going to see some additional stuff from him, but he did not go up front. But yeah, the AD was in there watching as well. It was interesting. It was,
really? Regarding officials?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he'll show up. His comments may show up in a story or two. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep. But he did not give us. We thought he was going to give a statement up front, but he did not. Rhule kind of addressed it. I understood the gist of what Rhule's getting at. I think what he's getting at is we need to go back to just calling football games and stop worrying about.
That's right.
But it's never going back.
No, it's definitely not going back.
No. The one thing you could change, and I didn't ask him this question because I think the answer is too easily defaults to yes, is whether you can use the Hawkeye system they use in tennis for football spotting. I don't know if you can. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's hard for me to determine, but that's the one, like, the spot thing you could probably get resolved a little better, but some of the other things in the game were just, they're up for interpretation. Those OPIs to me were bad calls.
Yep.
They just were. And he's got to deal with the aftermath of them. So
yeah,
that's the way it goes.
Well, and then what are you supposed to do about a guy on the spot thing with Emmett Johnson at the end of the first half? Like, it looked like he thought the wrong guy had the ball. Like, he wasn't even looking at the right guy.
He wasn't, and I think you're eventually going to see the game slow down. You're going to see the officials slow the game down and slow the college football down a little bit. It runs faster than the NFL. It is not at 2008 speed. Like in 2008, it was insane. It was Baylor was running plays every whatever second.
Yep.
The officials weren't doing anything. That's changed now, where the officials are managing the game better. But I think you're going to see it get to the point where it is in the NFL, where the game is just more tightly controlled from a pace standpoint, so that you're not having to, I don't know. There's a lot going on in that game. A lot of interesting calls. A lot of interesting replays. They got two games going on at once: Indiana and Washington.
I know.
Ohio State, Nebraska. I don't know how that system all works. So I don't know if they're gonna, at one point this season, they're gonna have 9 games. I don't know what week that is, but how they manage that, and we're just gonna have to see. It's certainly a topic of conversation. Nebraska probably, is pretty frustrated with the calls. They were at times last year too. I don't know that there's like a concerted effort to protect Ohio State or anything. I don't think that's in play here, but there were some questionable calls in that game for sure.
Yeah. What'd you think about his answer to the screen game question? There's obviously a bunch to unpack there, and you can see where his head's at. Like, hey, if they're gonna zero blitz, then we're not gonna not do this. Like, we're not gonna not try to do it. But Nebraska just doesn't seem like they can execute that consistently right now. Like, how do they deal with that going forward?
Yeah, it is an interesting situation, Connor. I certainly, there are certain things you do, pressure release valve plays, that help you against what Ohio State was doing. And, Nebraska didn't consistently execute those. I understand why some of those plays are happening. But again, I don't want to, how do I put this? there's some things that happen during the course of a game that's football, and maybe the argument is, well, that shouldn't be football, and that's not inaccurate per se, but it's football. And so, like, some of what happens during a game, you can criticize it, and that's fine. But what you're criticizing really is just the nature of the way that these things happen. You're not, like, Marcus Satterfield wasn't doing anything out of the beyond the pale in that game. I think they don't have great athletes along the line of scrimmage, and they haven't since Bill Callahan was there. You know, if Bill Callahan's calling those screens with the Bill Callahan offensive lineman era, you know, Bill Callahan era offensive lineman, I think people are just fine with the way those plays turn out. So some of it is the players, some of it, no, they're not going to sit there and say that, but you know, some of what you do against what Ohio State was doing is pressure valve stuff.
Yeah.
You know, one time they didn't do it. One time they didn't do it is they got sacked out of a field goal range in the second half. So, you know, they decided not to do it in that moment and run a screen, and they got sacked. So you can't necessarily please people all the time with what you're trying to do. I do wish, I mean, you know, there were some plays in that game where Chip Kelly did some stuff that was really cool, and you'd like to see Nebraska incorporate some of that, but Chip Kelly's been around a long time, and he's really good at what he does.
Yeah, like rolling the quarterback a little bit, and I don't know, getting things going. Like when they need it, when Ohio State on their drive where they converted that fourth down, you know, Nebraska was stuffing the run. Ohio State had an answer. It was, hey, we're gonna roll Will Howard for a step or two and get him safe, and you know, throw it to Ibuka for 2 yards and keep our drive going. Like it seemed easy when they needed to do that.
It did. Yeah, it did. It did seem pretty easy when they needed to do it. It was a good, you know, good receiver running it too.
Yep.
I'm speaking more of the Jeremiah Smith touchdown. That's an awfully hard play to stop. You're really trying. That's the thing. You can run only maybe once a game, and they nailed it. And you know, they got, I don't know, Isaac Gifford was looking for a half second, but you know, he's the guy that's got to make that play, and that's just hard to. That's almost impossible.
Yeah, because he's coming down to stop the run, and everybody's selling out on the run, and
right.
all of a sudden that guy's behind you. You got no chance.
It's a go route from a condensed stat. It's very, very challenging, and you know, just not generally the kind of play that defenders can make. But there's little things they did. Now Nebraska did some nice chess moves in return. They were able to slow down Ohio State's run, and you know, Chip Kelly does what Chip Kelly does. He went away from it. They got enamored with throwing the football and trying to get early chunk plays so they could get out of their own end. And you know, those didn't work, and then they did work. You know, they hit one. So it was a good chess match, and Ohio State had the last move or whatever. But Nebraska should feel good about the way it came out of that game. You got to flush all that, and you got to play UCLA straight up and play UCLA like they're a really good opponent. They're not great, but you got to play them like they are, and you can't leave any doubt. This is a game where if you get up 17-3, make it 24-3, make it 31-3, make it 38-3.
Yep.
Don't even pretend to think that until the gun sounds that you're bowl eligible. You can't even afford it. So
no.
I actually think it'll be a close game, Connor, but I don't. This is not one of those games where you can peek over at the clock. You have to be relentless in the way that you pursue it.
Yeah, it'll be like I'm imagining a similar situation. You know, if Nebraska's up comfortably in that game, and then all of a sudden it just slowly starts to drain away. Think about the pressure, you know, cooker that Ohio State put themselves in on Saturday, and what the fans did in sort of reaction. It would feel like that if Nebraska lets a lead slip away on Saturday.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's a possibility that, you know, the game can close in like that. So Nebraska's got to be relentless on Saturday. They really got to be relentless for all of November. I think the teams they're playing are certainly not as good as Ohio State, probably not as good as Indiana, but if you give some of those teams an inch, they'll take it, and they'll take it a mile. And Iowa can put you in the earth by 30, or you can, or if you play Iowa the right way, you can beat them. Michigan State already showed that. So, you know, you have to. We're going to find out a lot about this tenure, about the program, in the next 4 weeks. We'll learn a lot. If they're 2-2, then I think everybody kind of knows it's going in the right direction. If they don't win any of them, that'd be a real concern.
Trouble.
We'll see.
What can Dylan Raiola scrambling mean for this? I mean, his confidence. I think first, I felt like it got him into the game, on Saturday, and then also just for the offensive sort of operation in general.
Well, it gives them a pressure release valve. It shows it means that you can't necessarily pressure them unrelentlessly without getting burned. And I thought he did a nice job of getting out and making a couple of nifty runs, and he's got enough athleticism to do it. I think Matt Rhule does a real nice job of talking about Dylan Raiola. I do, because I think Dylan's got room to grow.
I agree. They keep him pretty, they kind of handle it publicly very carefully.
They do, and I think they do a nice job with that. I don't really know why he wasn't running a lot of the season. So I think he probably should have been. is the best way for me to put it. And maybe he's now ready to and willing to add that to his repertoire, and become the player that I think he probably needs to become, which is more of an athlete, out there. I don't know. He just, to me, he has not uncorked himself entirely. Like, I think we've seen, 85% Raiola, but we haven't seen all that he's capable of. And I'm not sure why. And maybe over the last month we'll see that guy and he'll come alive. But it doesn't feel like we see him that often. And I'm not exactly sure maybe he would be a lot happier in a spread offense. I'm not sure, but it feels like at times he's almost trying to do the right thing versus just playing ball.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what it seems like at times, for sure. All right, Sam, we'll let you go. By the way, appreciate your question at the end of the press conference that Matt Rhule would not take the bait on, which was, who's better, Ohio State or Indiana? I liked it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, he said throw out the logos, so I'm like, all right, let's throw out the logos. What do you think? And he didn't want any part of that. Probably because Ohio State's hosting Indiana in 2 weeks. And of course Ohio State gets that game at home, and that's going to help Ohio State immensely in that game for sure. So,
yep.
But yeah, he didn't want to answer that question.
Fair enough. All right, Sam. See you later. Thanks.
All right, you bet. Bye.
Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald.